The views and opinions expressed within the video content found on the Indie Comics Network are those of the speakers and do not necessarily reflect the views or positions of the Indie Comics Network or its sponsors.
After decades of marches, protests, and riots, in the midst of an unwinnable war, the United States was learning how to heal. Thanks to TV creators like Norman Lear, sitcoms didn't stray away from controversial topics, but instead leaned into them. Things like low-income housing, abortion, war, and even racism were tackled head-on, and were even provided a laugh track. Whether from first run or rerun, most of the panel tonight were influenced by these sitcoms, and we're betting so are you. So sit back, tune in, and don't touch that dial as we discuss sitcoms from my Sweet Seventies, right now on Dispatches from Outside the Box.
In the spaces, things exist. In the lines that form the network of your mind. Behind the retinas of imagination are the particles and peripherals that made you who you are. Turn off, shut your eyes, and listen to Dispatches from Outside the Box.
All right, let me drop this. And welcome to the show that scours the corners of geekdom to inspire you to create outside the box. That means create comic books with your mind blown. I'm C Michael Lanning, graphic translator, independent comic artist who've done work for different comic people. Before we get out and we start bringing out our panelists, I want to remind you to like, subscribe, share, hit that bell icon for all the great shows that we have here on the IndieComicsNetwork.com. And of course, if you're interested, stick around because we're talking about that 70s right now. Go ahead and introduce yourself, sir. I'm not saying names anymore because every time I say a name, I might as well introduce you. So tell me who you are.
Who am I? Last time I heard, I'm Mitch Rogers.
Not what you were called, what you were named.
Yeah. I'm the creator of the Boger horror comic book series. The second volume, Southern Gothic, is available right now on my website. Coming soon to Amazon.
All right. So now I already know what your favorite 70s show was. We kind of talked about that backstage last week. So but what's funny to me is there was a lot of controversial stuff in the 70s.
Oh yeah.
But for us, like, growing up in the 80s and everything, this stuff was your afternoon TV shows.
Yeah.
Your kid stuff, they used to come on after the cartoons, right?
Yeah. But I will say that without the 70s, that kind of pushing the envelope, so to speak, in the 70s, we would have never have gotten the shows we got in the 80s and 90s.
Oh, right. No, absolutely.
Without the bunkers, we never would have had the Bundys, for instance. We never would have had, these like genre bending TV and that kind of pushed the envelope further than they did in the 70s.
Well, you look at Archie Bunker, for instance, Carol
Yeah.
O'Connor, and you got to think he probably was getting some flack from people because you know how people are. They see him on TV, they think that's how he is in real life, and then he goes and starts in the heat of the night.
Yeah,
probably just got to double down on that.
yeah. Well, yeah, but I will say that that I forgot the character's name that he played in the Heat of the Night, but he was less.
Gillespie.
Yeah, he was less ignorant than Archie Bunker.
Right.
Like all of Archie Bunker's
yeah.
beliefs was, rooted in the fact that he was uneducated and didn't want to really be educated outside of his own level.
Right. Yeah. Absolutely. And he was the anti-hero, as it were. He wasn't really somebody to aspire to.
Like one thing I loved about All in the Family is, you have the two extremes with Archie and Michael Stivic, Meathead.
Yeah.
They're basically purposely meant to be unlikable. Like they're the worst parts of both sides of the political spectrum.
Right. Well,
yeah, it's a good analogy. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, absolutely. Because basically, we're coming out of the '60s, peace, love, and everything. They had the I can't remember what concert it was, and the Hell's Angels just went ape shit on the
it was
people.
Rolling
it was the end of the
Stones
Summer of Love.
concert.
It was a Rolling Stones concert, but I think they were playing somewhere. What did they? I can't remember.
Yeah, I forgot the venue, and they were stupid enough to get Hell's Angels as
Hell's
security.
Angels, right? They weren't playing any of that free love stuff. They took their love.
No.
Speaking of taking love, go ahead and introduce yourself, sir.
Because I do that. I take love.
I'll take love.
Since we're not saying what we're called and giving our real names, I'm Jared Lockhart. I'm a big comics nerd, pop culture nerd. I love learning stuff, and hopefully I can learn something tonight with you guys about the 70s. And like C said, when we came home after school, we saw things like the Jeffersons, All in the Family, Sanford and Son, all that was a staple coming home in the afternoons. Loved it.
Absolutely. They used to have also played like on Sunday mornings and everything. So sometimes, especially the Jeffersons, we used to catch the Jeffersons all the time. It would show up. Mm-hmm. It's just funny. They didn't seem to, when it went into syndication, nobody cared. You could never tell what was going to show up.
It was normal to me.
You never know what's going to show up. Yeah.
Never know. Well, go ahead and introduce yourself, sir.
Hi, everybody. Today I'm Randy Zimmerman.
Hi, Randy.
Hey, everybody.
Hi, Randy.
I got great enough to say I went through some of those shows in the 70s. So
when
you were there firsthand.
Sometimes, yes.
Sometimes. So, which show stands out to you the most? Like, I can't tell by my background.
No, you can't tell by your background. Barney Miller. Barney Miller was my show. Love that show. Always have, always will. It's one of those comedy plays. Pretty much every week, everything took place pretty much in the police office, and it's just one of those great shows. Barney Miller, WKRP, and Taxi were just staples on primetime television. This was before there was cable, and when there was only 4 channels on the TV, or 5 if you were lucky enough to be able to bend your antenna properly.
Sometimes we had to be the antenna. We had to hold it.
We were used up all the tinfoil in the house.
Yeah,
absolutely. You had 2 settings. You had UHF and VHF.
Mm-hmm.
So,
and even then, you only had 4 channels if you were lucky. Maybe 5.
Oh, right.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And then you were lucky and got like a 5th channel, and everything was situated right. Then all of a sudden, boom, a storm would happen.
Yep.
Speaking of storms, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hey, everybody. I am Rodney Fyke.
The storm.
There you go.
Storm.
Right.
I am the storm.
So you survived the 70s, right, Rodney?
I did. I saw all those sitcoms firsthand as a wee child and loved them all. Sanford and Son. I saw that on the clip before. Completely forgot about that, which reminded me of Chico and the Man. Good Times was one of my favorites. Love that show.
Oh yeah.
Archie Bunker, all in the
damn.
Yes, and for those that don't know, that was Flo finally reacting to James being killed in a car crash. Her husband.
Was it a car crash or was it an accident on the construction site?
No, he was killed in a car crash.
It was a car crash.
I just watched the episode about 2 months ago.
Ah,
Okay.
Yeah.
That was a sad one. Yeah.
On his way to a new job. And he
That's
was,
right. Because every time something came up, something would happen, just kind of push him right back down.
Yeah.
Which for John Amos was kind of the reason why he left the show. I read about this a while back. He was a comedy writer before he was on Good Times. And one of the things that he kept trying to get them to do is to let the family get ahead. But Norman Lear and everybody didn't want that to happen because they wanted to keep it, low income, I guess, to continue to reach that demographic.
Yeah.
And I think he got frustrated with it and pretty much split.
Well, I get it both ways. You want to do better, but at the same time, it kind of reflects reality with the low income because you get ahead, you get knocked down a peg. You get ahead, you get knocked down 2 pegs. And that's just the way of life, especially back then. So I get it, both ends,
He was actually very politically active. And to Steve's point, he did want them to get ahead, but he also wanted to cover more topical subjects, which they covered quite a few, but he wanted to push the envelope even further. And I just saw an interview with him. It was either Howard Stern or Rogan or one of those guys. He said that him and Norman Lear constantly fought. And it stressed Norman out so much that in season 4, the parting conversation between him and Norman was John saying, "I'll see you next season," and Norman saying bye. And he said 2 days later, he got a phone call from his agent saying that he's not coming back next season.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, so he was fired instead of left.
They were tired of constantly him wanting to push the envelope and,
it's too early yet,
Yeah.
Well, he was about 2 seasons in?
He was
the first season, huh?
I think it was 3 seasons.
3 seasons?
Yeah. Because it lasted 5 or 6 seasons.
Yeah, it was about that, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's crazy if you go back and watch that and look at past Janet Jackson.
Yeah.
Finney and everything.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
Excuse me. Which is one of the subjects. One of those things that they touched on was child abuse.
Yeah.
In there. So.
Well, yeah, that's how she became was introduced into the series. She was being abused by her mother.
Right.
So their neighbor, I can't think of her name.
Oh.
She adopted
Theona. I can't remember her name either.
Her name.
But yeah, she ended up adopting her.
Yeah. And then I agree with Randy. Barney Miller was just head and shoulders above the rest. That and WKRP in Cincinnati were pretty top notch.
Walona.
That's my all-time favorite.
Walona. Yeah.
WKRP.
Walona.
Yeah.
And it meant a lot to me because I was from Cincinnati. So
there you go. Yep. Always looking for that station on the dial.
Well, the funny thing is when the series debuted, we were living in Evansville, Indiana, and we were away from home through circumstances that weren't what we wanted them to be. So we always longed to be back in Cincinnati, be back home. Mm-hmm. So we had a special connection as kids to that show because that was home. Sure. And then 7 years later, we finally got to go back home. So that show always holds a special place in my heart just for that reason. Aside from the fact that it was brilliant. Turkeys cannot fly. I know the big turkey day's coming up, so public service.
Oh yeah, that's a classic.
Yeah.
It is.
One of my favorite lines from that movie or that episode is when everyone at the station's on the phone with someone, like either at the city or some activist or something, and Jennifer goes, "Well, to be honest, sir, most turkeys don't make it past Thanksgiving."
It was just boom, 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 boom. One-liners all the time.
Like wet cement or something?
Yeah, they're hitting the bags they're hitting the ground like bags of wet cement.
That's what it was. Yeah.
Yeah, then he comes back, he's like telling the horror story, then they let the helicopter down and thought they'd, just get rid of the rest of them. But it was almost like the turkeys were organized.
You're muted. Jarrett, you're muted.
That's brilliant for me, isn't it?
Yeah, no, it happens to me all the time.
I also have to say that even though it was a 90s show, that 70s show brought back Hessman as the DJ that Donna worked for.
Mhm.
So I thought that was a great callback, and it is that 70s show, so it makes sense, So.
It's a sitcom.
What's crazy to me is that I know him from Head of the Class.
Yeah.
And we'll get into that when we get into the 80s.
It's a good show.
Head of the Class?
Yeah, I liked it.
Yeah. It produced some problems, but yeah.
Well, it produced a big problem. But that's for another story. It's another show.
Story for another time.
Another time.
But what's interesting, okay, so one of the big shows, of course, I put in there was the Brady Bunch, which in its own way also dealt with. Besides, we're not talking about what the oldest one smoking. I can't remember what his name is. Greg smoking.
Greg.
But they were dealing with a mixed family, which was kind of a different thing than coming out of the '60s, where you had monsters married to each other, and it was the nuclear family, and then you had this. Now, my question is this:
which made divorce okay,
right? Well,
Yeah.
Because then you also get into the Odd Couple at the same time,
Mhm.
which was also dealing with that situation. But Mike was divorced, right?
Yeah.
No, Mike was widowed though.
Oh, he
Yeah,
was widowed.
Mike's
and-
wife was dead. Florence Henderson was divorced.
Right.
But they never
Yeah.
brought the husband in.
Yeah.
Or
which
even
would have been
mentioned
good
him as far as
comedy
I know.
if they did.
Yeah.
I think. But
Well, they
They
do
did
that
in
now.
the second movie. They did.
In
but
the
that
second
was-
Did they? Yeah.
Yeah.
did they? I don't
Movies
remember
don't
that. I don't
Oh
remember
my
those
gosh.
movies.
Yeah, he was
Don't
evil.
even count the movies. They
They're
don't
easy
count.
to
It's
forget.
not even the
Yes,
same.
they are.
It's not even the same.
It's easy to forget. Yeah.
So it's the
It's
last
not the
season when they brought in Cousin Oliver. So
Oh, the little blonde kid. Yeah.
Yeah.
Little dork.
Is that
Yeah,
the
that
first
show-
time that they put something in to try to save a show?
The kids were all getting too old, so they
Hey,
needed.
you're probably right there. See, I
Yeah.
think that was one of the first times, if not the first time, they used a MacGuffin to save the show.
well, that started with Happy Days. That's why they call it Jumping the Shark.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, they tried to
Yeah, but
spice up
Happy
the
Days.
show with
But
a
Happy Days
special
was
event.
Well, what did they bring in Happy
still
Days?
later though.
Was it?
Fonzie actually jumped the shark.
Everything.
Yeah.
Laverne, Shirley.
Fonzie
Morris.
had a motorcycle, jumped over a shark tank, and that was the point that they figured the ratings just started tanking on
Yeah.
the show.
No,
Birth of a
Well,
name.
but Happy
It
Days
got
was still
out, too
like
outlandish. Yeah.
1974 when Happy Days came out. So when did they start having Cousin Oliver on the Brady Bunch?
Last season.
It was. When did that end? About 73 or?
Oh, I think it lasted longer than that. I'm
Did
not
it?
positive. To 74. You can say
74.
74. Yeah. So it was
Only what?
74.
3 seasons, 4 seasons?
In my mind, it's hard to believe that was a product of the 70s, even though it started in the 60s. It's that very Americana feel to it, though. That 60s feel.
Well, it's also a show that's been out there forever, too.
Yeah.
And it's
Yeah.
still in reruns to this day.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, you're still looking at it. It came in the 60s, came at the very tail end of the 60s. And that's what's kind of hard about saying 70 sitcoms, 60 sitcoms, and everything.
Mm-hmm.
Because you look at a season starts at September usually
Yeah.
and runs all the way to May of the next year. So you don't really kind of have that teeter on some of the shows.
And the really good ones will last about a decade. So
Or
Yeah.
longer, yeah.
Or
Yeah,
longer.
Look at MASH. MASH
MASH.
went way into the 80s.
Oh man.
The match was
12
what, 3
years?
times longer than the actual war was?
Yeah.
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 Yeah. That show. Jeez. That
11
thing
years.
touched on everything. The final episode was just a brain F word. It was great.
It was the highest rated episode of anything until I
Yeah.
think the 90s. I think
So
last
much
time-
emotion.
The day after, I think, blew it out of the water.
83 million people watched that show.
Yeah.
Mhm.
It's crazy.
More
number.
people than the Super Bowl that year.
Yeah.
Which wasn't unheard of then.
Which was weird because it aired in 1983, and 83 million people watched.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it
And
started like,
luckily it ended incredibly well
Yes.
too.
Yeah.
I mean, it was probably one of the best written episodes of the show, and the show was already great.
Yeah. And how long did we all wait? Well, you and I, Randy, because we're the oldest. How long did we wait for some type of a spinoff that never happened?
Oh, there was spin-offs. They just weren't very
yeah.
good.
Yeah,
John.
they were or memorable. So
Yeah.
Yeah,
Trapper
there's
John
one.
MD or whatever.
Trapper
There's one
John,
that
I think,
had-
lasted 3 or
Trapper
4
John, a
seasons.
couple
Yeah.
years, yeah.
Yeah, they had one that came on like the year after it ended. It had Father Mulcahy.
Oh,
the
you know,
last, I
forgot
forgot the
that,
other
yeah.
one. The
Klinger and Radar.
Did they call
Yeah.
that Aftermash?
yeah,
Yeah.
it lasted like 2 episodes. Like I mean,
Yeah,
it
they yanked
barely
it
even
pretty quick.
lasted.
but you couldn't stand against Alf. That's the whole thing. You know, you couldn't stand
yeah.
up against the juggernaut that was Alf. And I'm kidding.
No, I'm with you. If you run those episodes today against brand new shows, they'll watch that over those. I guarantee
Yeah.
it.
Well, that's why those rerun TV stations are so popular. Me TV, Retro TV, Comet,
TV Land, yeah.
TV Land. Yeah. Well, Nickelodeon
Carl.
figured that out. That's how they got their ratings. And
Hello,
even-
Carl.
Carl.
Hey, Carl.
Carl, how we doing?
Hey, North Free says all in the family ruled. And once they got Mr. Jefferson on and showed both a white Archie and a black
Yeah.
racist Jefferson going at one another in funny bits, classic, changed TV.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Yep,
that
sure did.
that scene where they first meet each other is just priceless. If you ever see
Oh
it.
yeah. Oh
I
yeah.
don't think I have.
If you see 100 best moments in TV history, that has to be on the top 10.
Yeah,
Or
Yeah,
the
because
time
the
where
whole-
he accidentally kisses Sammy Davis Jr.
yeah.
Oh,
Okay,
that
she
was
is-
brilliant.
That's one of the dark.
All the family would have its own top 10 list.
Mhm.
Oh,
Oh
yeah.
my gosh!
Easy.
First-
the
First
show lasted
toilet
for 9 years.
flush on television.
Oh, was it?
Yeah, started the series too. It was the first thing that happened in the first episode.
Oh, you know, I do vaguely remember hearing about that.
Yeah, you
I
would.
think
If
it was on one
if
of
it
those
wasn't for that,
VH1
you wouldn't
shows.
have Al, right? Or
You wouldn't have a lot of things if it wasn't for Norman Lear.
oh yeah.
Mm, that's
Yeah.
true.
He really plowed a lot of new ground
Yeah.
for
And Brady
sitcom
Bunch
television.
was a combined family, but they weren't dysfunctional. All
Right.
the family and others showed the families with issues, which helped
Mhm.
create situations for discussion. Carl said, "Yeah, I was 11 in 1970, so I saw these shows first run. 11, huh?
That's pretty good that you remember that.
Yeah.
Well, Brady Bunch too. I think you could gang in with the '60s sitcoms like
You really could, yeah.
Yeah.
Sherwood Schwartz was in charge of that. He wasn't out to be controversial. He was just out to do an entertaining show. And the kids, like we mentioned earlier, were getting older, and I'm sure that they were talking about trying to make the show more serious as they went along. You know, want to be more topical and cover more important.
Well, I mean,
subjects.
they covered
They
some
said
really
no
serious
to become a
things
music
like
group.
voice changes, you know, acne. They dealt with some
Yeah.
hardcore stuff.
Getting
back
smacked in the face with a football. Yeah.
then. Yeah, you know, sibling
That's
jealousy.
traumatizing.
Sibling jealousy. Yeah. That's
Yeah.
Falling, you having bizarre feelings for your sibling because there was that one episode.
That was behind the scenes. They
What?
dated.
No, there was Mitch is trying to be
Are you
funny.
sure? No. Are you sure? Because I think there was an episode where Greg and Marcia started.
There wasn't Brady Bunch too.
There-
That was
There
the movie.
wasn't.
Yeah,
Yeah,
sorry.
that was the movie.
See,
Be
when I
careful.
said that movie was
Not
forgettable.
canon, so
was-
it didn't happen. It's not canon.
Craig and Marsh are behind the groovy beads.
Actually, it was Greg and Mama Brady that were getting on behind the scenes.
Oh,
but that's
he
another
dated. He
story.
dated both. I thought. Back in
Everybody
I
dated
seriously-
everybody back in those days.
I seriously thought that was in the
No.
show.
That's how
That's
well
not
they
something
did.
Sherwood just got off of Gilligan's Island. He wouldn't let that stuff happen.
Yeah, that's not canon, Mitch. Don't be.
But it is true though. He was starting to, but he did bring, even though it wasn't necessarily controversial, and it might have actually been overshadowed by shows like All in the Family and everything being controversial because they were kind of dealing with puberty issues. Greg was smoking, and you know what we did. What when we were growing up in the '80s was if you saw that kind of thing, there's some right movement that kept saying this was evil and take it off TV. So it might have just swayed. It had its moments.
You should
but
have
it
had
might
that
been
episode.
overshadowed.
They should have had that episode where Alice, the housekeeper, was, giving the kids all marijuana, because she was definitely, when she take a break, she was popping a joint or two,
It was a natural progression from the family shows of the 50s and 60s that it became, as television evolved and became more intelligent, the shows grew up along with it. And Brady Bunch, definitely a stepping stone between Leave It to Beaver and My Three Sons, and the One Day at a Time and the Norman Lear shows that came later.
One day at a time.
Valerie
That's how we
Bertinelli.
take it. That's how we take it. That's how we
Just the
take
way
it.
it
One
is.
day at a time.
One day at a time.
Yeah, but I heard Valerie Bertinelli was a bitch. So,
Probably that didn't
No,
change
was
the
it-
way
what-
she looked.
yeah,
though.
it was
What's
Valerie, right?
the super's
Somebody
name in
California.
that show? I always
Snyder.
found him creepy.
Snyder.
Snyder.
Yeah, he was
I
always
found him
creepy.
because he was
Mhm.
kind of lurking around the girls a lot.
The way he
Oh,
was
yeah.
acting
It
too.
was a
Hey, yeah.
I was
It
a
was a
staple
mustache.
back then. Even though Three's Company was in the early '80s, they had a creeper in every
Probably
show
a
then.
few panty drawers invaded during that
Actually,
in that realm.
Three's Company started in 1976.
Yeah.
Oh, really? So
Yeah.
there was a creeper in every show in the 70s.
And that was crazy controversial when it first started.
Oh, I loved it, man. John,
Which is
Ritter.
crazy. So basically, it's controversial because you have a platonic male with two women, or straight male platonic relationship with two women he's living with. So they pass it by.
Well,
pass,
He wasn't
Well, it's because he was pretending to
pretends
be gay.
Right.
the male, and the male was
Yeah.
constantly a horn dog too.
Yeah.
He wasn't trying to
Yes.
keep that
Yeah.
relationship
Larry.
platonic at all.
Good old Larry.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Larry,
the creeper.
yes.
Yeah, I couldn't remember his name.
Eagle,
Thank
Eagle
you.
and hunt for some chicks.
Well, the landlord
He was the
constantly
Quagmire.
peeping in on him, trying to catch him, was also kind of
Yeah,
creepy. but-
Mr. Roper and Mr.
He knew. He knew.
Odd knots.
It
That's
was
all.
an orgy house.
Yeah. Oh yeah,
Okay.
Don Knotts. Yeah.
Mr.
Didn't get a second
Mr.
Roper.
Goldman? What was his name? Mr.
Norman
I thought he was also Roper.
Mr.
Wasn't
No,
he
he wasn't
related to
Roper.
Mr. Roper?
He was
Mr. Roper was Norman Fell.
Norman Fell. Who was
He-
what is
they
what was
brought
Don
Don
Knotts'
Knotts.
character's name?
I'm trying to remember who
Um,
it was.
I want to say Pringle. I could be wrong.
There's IMDb. Let's see.
There you
I'm
go.
right here.
You got
You
it?
know, like how Don Knotts was playing like the
It's
the
Don
aging,
Knotts. He didn't need a name. He was
Yeah,
Don.
That's what
He
I'm
was Don
saying.
the
Knotts,
aging
exactly.
ladies man.
Don motherfucking
He was
Knotts.
playing a horn
right.
dog.
I think he kept that show on the air after Suzanne Summers left.
Well, that's why they got Don Knotts, because they
Yeah.
needed that.
hmm
Oh, gosh.
And no one was ever as good as Chrissy. So
You
They
just
tried,
tell me.
but-
Furley.
Furley,
Mr.
Mr.
Furley.
Furley,
Mr.
yeah.
Burley?
Yeah.
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 Now, somebody tried to say that Furley was better than the Ropers.
They were
Everybody's
different.
got their favorites.
It's
all
in
different.
taste. I mean, it's kind of hard to go against
Yeah.
Don Knotts.
I
but,
think that's-
I'm kind of favorable to Don Knotts. So.
yeah, but the Ropers. That's my tenant. That's
They
my
got their
landlord
own
right
show.
there,
Furley
you know.
didn't get his own show.
No.
Well, yeah, but he was on the show because they had to leave and make their own show.
Yeah.
That's right. And I don't think the Roper show lasted more than a season.
I don't
It was
even
a couple
remember
of
it.
seasons.
Was it
Yeah.
a couple of seasons?
I could be wrong. I might be wrong. That was a long time ago.
It's like
So long.
the Joey show, the spinoff of Friends, lasted like 3 seasons. I'm surprised.
Yeah.
Was it
Did it
2
really?
or 3? Like it lasted longer than I thought it would. Yeah.
I didn't think that lasted a couple of episodes, much less all that. Val, maybe I'm wrong. Valerie Bertinelli was the one that played Rhoda, right?
Oh,
Who, Rhoda? No.
Yeah, who
No,
played
no,
Rhoda?
that's,
Because I might be wrong. Valerie Bertinelli was the young one on.
That was Valerie
One Day at a
something
Time.
else. Valerie Harper.
Harper.
Valerie
Harper,
Harper.
yeah.
That's who I was thinking
Yeah,
of. That was
Harper's
the bitch. I'm
family.
sorry, Valerie Bertinelli.
Valerie Bertinelli was the youngest daughter on the show.
Yeah, who was
That's
the
right.
oldest daughter?
Mackenzie
know?
Phillips.
There you go.
Yeah, the one that slept with her dad.
You just muted
She
yourself.
slept with her dad.
What?
I like how we got
Yeah.
quiet, but yeah, they.
Oh, yeah.
I've
Yeah,
never
she
heard
did.
this story. And I don't have
Well,
to.
she didn't. Apparently, she didn't do it willingly. It was more.
Well,
like
no, I don't mean she was like, "Hey, Daddy, let's go to bed together."
No, that was a mess. Yeah.
I was kind of thinking she didn't know it was her father type of thing.
Well,
Okay.
She didn't have
That
a
was
choice.
abuse. That was just
Yeah,
solid.
that was straight
She
up
was
abuse.
many years in counseling and drug substance abuse and everything.
He was
So
a. He was.
it was a mess.
He was a
He
piece
was
of
in the
shit.
Mama and the
Yeah, he
Papas,
was.
wasn't he?
Mhm.
Oh my gosh! Way to bring the chat down, Jared.
One day at a time.
Here
you
comes
said
reality. Boom.
something-
Yeah.
Well, we're trying to be controversial, right? It's the
Valerie
same-
Good time.
Bertinelli is
Good
the one
time.
that ended up marrying the Eddie Van
Eddie Van
Halen.
Halen, yeah.
Yeah, I remember now. No, I was thinking Valerie Harper, who played Rhoda
No.
with who she was also on Mary Tyler Moore show
Yeah.
As
Yeah,
Rhoda.
yeah. And
as Rhoda. Right? Yeah, it was.
And
film.
Valerie's family that eventually became Harper's family. So
Yeah. Do you remember who played Rhoda's sister?
was it
It was
Alice?
I think it was her sister or her friend. It was a roommate, one way or another.
No.
It was.
I have the
Julie
face
Kavner.
in my mind, but I can't think of the name.
Who?
Julie Kavner. You should have the voice. It's Marge Simpson.
Oh yeah.
Oh, I
yeah,
didn't know that.
Yeah. Oh, homie. I
It
can't
sounds
do
just
it.
like her.
Yeah, I
It
can't
sounds
do
just
that.
like
yeah.
her.
Yeah, I can't do that.
Well, that's her actual voice.
Yeah, right.
Well, it took me up until a couple of years ago to discover the lady that ran the boarding house on Petticoat Junction was Betty Rubble,
Mm.
the voice of Betty Rubble. That's crazy.
Really?
I saw a cast picture and I'm like, oh, I know her. Oh, she was the voice of Betty Rubble. Who knew? It's
Huh.
awesome. With the little goofy, high pitched laughter. You know? Yeah.
Oh,
Amazing.
Well, Rodney, you said Chico and the Man.
Mhm.
No, I didn't know Chico and the Man, really.
Mm.
Chico and the Man was Freddie Prinze Jr.'s father. Freddie Prinze
Oh,
Yeah,
Okay.
Freddie Prinze.
was a stand-up comedian, and he was kind of like the Eddie Murphy of the early 70s.
It's very funny.
He was very, very funny, very talented, and he was a rising star. I mean, he was a shooting star. And he got inundated with coke and all kinds of drugs and everything, and I think the pressure was too much for him, and he committed suicide at 23 years old.
Oh, wow.
Just a couple seasons into the show, they ended up, the show stopped because of his suicide.
Yeah.
Because it was really his vehicle. And
Because it led into it was Chico and the Man, and then Sanford and Son.
yeah.
Mhm.
And the man was the guy from Willy Wonka,
Yeah,
Here comes the man.
Eddie.
Uncle Joe. That's
Uncle Joe?
Is it Uncle Joe?
Yeah.
The villain.
I
of
want to
Willy
say
Wonka?
Eddie Albert, but that's not him. Eddie Albert, I think, was on Green Acres.
yeah, it was a good
That's
show.
the place to
Albert
be.
something. Yes, it is.
His tagline was "Looking good." Remember that, Randy?
Yeah.
I mean, I had heard the show, but I and it's still it kind of it had its
You would have to dig up some episodes. It was right up there with Sanford and Son and Barney Miller.
Yeah, it was really, really good.
Yeah.
Jack Albertsons.
Jack
Albertson.
Albert. I knew there was an Albert in there somewhere. Yeah.
Yeah.
Jack
Well,
Albert.
Good Times gets a lot of love, but you guys remember What's Happening? I saw that's
I do.
one of the
Oh,
scenes
yeah.
on the
Yeah.
intros
Oh,
on there. So,
Rods, a rerun. and-
Yeah.
I've never seen an episode. I'm sorry
Really?
to say.
really,
Oh,
it's good, dude. You should
Go watch
it
the
if you
episode
have a
with the Doobie
chance.
Brothers.
The opening theme stuck in your head. And once
Oh,
you
yeah.
hear it, it's like an earworm that just, yeah.
Yeah, because it was a real
Insane.
simple opening. Because all it was them,
Was.
coming down the street bouncing a basketball. That was
It was
pretty
it.
much it.
Mhm.
That was one of
Uh,
those quick decisions. Hey, we need to film an opening. Really? Holy crap. We've got to be on the air in a half an hour.
And they're like, you know what?
What you got to do? Run down there,
this-
come back. Yeah.
This actually works. I like it.
Yeah.
We'll keep it.
Yeah.
And they did.
I
so.
bet
Hey,
that's
I
what,
got one
exactly
for you
how
guys.
that ran.
Nobody's mentioned. It wasn't. I guess it was kind of funny. It was more dramatic, but the White Shadow.
White Shadow.
That was
Remember
a
that,
drama.
Randy?
That was
Yeah.
a drama. Football
Yeah.
or a basketball coach. Yeah.
Basketball. Ken Howard played the coach.
Mhm.
I don't remember that
Who
one.
did?
Ken Howard.
And that
Okay.
was
I thought you said
really
Clint Howard. I'm like,
popular
wait,
and
what?
very topical when it come out. It was like
Yeah.
Marcus Welby, MD.
Yeah.
But that was more of a drama than a comedy.
If
Yeah.
it was Clint Howard, I wish I would have seen that one because that would have been
Yeah.
funny.
That
That
was
was
a hell of a
a
show.
basketball coach.
Yeah.
Yeah, no,
I saw
it
him
was-
as a
good
kid
Jack
ice
Albertson,
cream
the man.
man in the movie the other day.
Jack Albertson.
Hey,
Wait, say that again?
go ahead.
Who'd you see?
Clint Howard. I saw him as a killer ice cream man in a movie the other day.
Yeah, that sounds like
He's
that
been
was-
he was like the Nick Cage back in the day and still
Yeah.
is. He doesn't
He's
say no
everywhere.
to anything. You give him $5. Yeah, I'll be in it.
He's
What, do
one
you
of those
remember the-
guys. He's one of those guys. You got to go up on IMDb and look, and you're just stunned at the amount of acting credits he's got. It's like Eric Roberts. So you go up there and you look at Eric Roberts' acting
Eric
credits.
Roberts,
Holy crap!
Have you ever seen a talking cat with Eric Roberts as a talking cat?
Mm-mm.
I haven't
that-
actually, and I'm shocked.
That's one of those so bad it's good. It is so awful.
And yet he's never had a solid series or a role, and he needs one.
Yeah,
Right? That's kind of either one of them really. Clint Howard could do it too. Eric Roberts could do it. Yeah,
Eric Roberts.
He's somebody that needs like a Yellowstone where he comes off as a real.
He's always a
hardcore
one-off
SOB.
guy. You know, he's always the bad guy.
He's always
or
jumping
he gets
all
knocked off quick.
I don't know if he's just that nice guy or if he's that hard to work with, but he's too good of an actor not to.
I know
not
he's an
have it
alcoholic
on the show.
He is.
I think he's a bit of a hippie. I think
That
it's
too.
his personality.
He is a
I've
big
seen
pot
stuff.
smoker too. So
Yeah. So
But we're going to talk
his daughter's a good
topical.
actress.
If we talk topical sitcoms, got to talk soap.
Oh, oh yeah.
yeah.
Still a great
Billy
show.
Crystal.
Billy Crystal.
start. Yeah.
Yeah.
All-star cast on that. The guy from Benson was on that.
Yeah.
Started
Robert
out
Guillaume.
Robert
Absolutely.
Guillaume.
Well, that's where Benson came from.
Yeah.
It was.
Oh,
was it?
It was
I didn't know
spin-off.
that. I didn't
Which
know
is
that.
crazy because soap is tonally different than what Benson was.
A lot of spin-offs were oddly different.
But if you didn't have soap,
Considering.
you wouldn't have seen all of these soap operas. Because soap was really a parody of the afternoon soap opera. And then all of a sudden you started seeing all these dramatic soap operas pop up, Dallas and Falcon Crest, and just
And
dramatic television in general ended up taking so many elements from the
Falcon
soap
Crest.
opera structure and just started continuing TV. If there wasn't a Dallas and a Falcon Crest, you wouldn't have had a Hill Street Blues and a St. Elsewhere, and that led to all of these other great shows as writing becomes more sophisticated in television.
Isn't that crazy? That's crazy that something.
the
I
way the
didn't watch
evolution
any
is.
of those shows, so I don't know. I have no
Well,
reference.
just watch Yellowstone, and it's basically Dallas.
That's everything. Yeah,
I've heard that. I haven't seen it, but I've heard that.
only it's in
I-
Montana.
I never watched Dallas, but I have watched Knots Landing. So that one.
Knots Landing. Yeah, that was a good.
Your
film.
mom watched that one. My
Yeah,
grandmother.
that's
she
pretty much
didn't
what it
watch
was.
any of those.
Dynasty.
Yeah.
Came out of that.
You didn't have to watch Dallas to know what was going on with Dallas. Like, Who Shot JR was a big, talking.
That was a huge thing.
It
Yeah,
was
It was
so
a
big.
huge disappointment too, from what I understand.
and they jumped the shark when Bobby stepped out of the shower.
Yeah, that was so stupid. Like the first
Well,
time,
that's kind of
the first time as a TV viewer, I looked at the TV and went, "What?" And I was like 12 years old.
okay. So
More fun than
12-year-old
law.
felt cheated on that shit.
okay,
More
so
fun than
that
lost.
was now Bobby was Patrick
Patrick
Duffy.
McDuffie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Patrick
Atlanta.
Duffy, right?
Man from Atlantis.
Yes.
First Submariner on television.
So
yeah.
was he dead before that?
Yeah.
Or- Okay.
Yeah, he had been dead for at least a season.
Oh, I hate that crap.
See, that's when those shows
It's all
became a
green.
parody of themselves. Is when they did stupid shit like that.
Yeah. That's a great old soap opera element. Great old
Well,
comic
you
book
know,
element.
elsewhere.
Correct me if I'm wrong, Randy, but didn't they do that so he could go film Man from Atlantis?
I'm not sure if that's why he left. I think he left for greener pastures that didn't turn out that
Right.
green.
I
and
think
he,
it
I was gonna
Man
say,
from-
and that was the irony of him stepping
only
out of the
3
shower
feet.
because it was water.
it could
Yeah.
be.
Yeah.
Could very well be.
I'm back. I'm wet.
And he
now
will
I'm
get his
drying
next
off.
big break when he does Step by Step later on in the 90s.
Remember
See,
that, yeah.
years before that, though, there was Dark Shadows that was
Oh,
on
yeah.
a soap opera on the afternoon. That was a very horrific daytime drama, and
Oh, yeah.
they jumped dimensions a lot and had the same actors playing different characters over and over again,
Different
So by
time
the-
periods, right?
in different time periods. Yeah,
Well, that's kind of one of the points of the show, though. It wasn't like this like super realistic thing, with
well, again, they were running out of stuff to do, so they were they were backtracking and correcting timelines, and Barnabas was a vampire, wasn't a vampire, became a vampire again. Just it was pretty crazy stuff. But yeah, if you didn't have soap operas like that, you wouldn't have had soap. Everything's all connected.
Right. And you wouldn't have Billy Crystal was a ventriloquist. So
Mhm.
no, the I have a
As a-
microphone here. That's
As
what
a
caused
gay
that.
ventriloquist.
Yes.
He was one of the first gay characters on television.
What?
Okay.
I actually didn't
Yeah.
know that. I didn't
There
know
were a
that.
few gay characters in All in the Family, but I don't know if they came before or after. So
They were,
He
but
was
yeah,
a
but they were
regular.
kind of a.
oh,
Crystal was a regular on Soap.
How dare
that
he
was-
play a gay and he's not gay?
was-
Oh, that was
He was the
crazy.
breakout.
Yeah,
He was the breakout star of that show.
Soap
That
was a
is
lot more
horrible.
cutting edge than a lot of people realize.
So what? Now he went and was on Saturday Night Live after that, right?
Yeah.
For like a season, I believe.
It wasn't
Well,
for long,
that's
right?
because Saturday Night Live was desperate to have anybody on that was funny. And
Yeah, that was after the first
Crystal was
5 years where they
recognizable.
were struggling. Lauren
Yeah.
Michaels left.
That was
The
the-
original cast left.
The
so
post
they were,
Eddie Murphy years when it was
Yeah.
really lean.
Yeah, I heard they got a lot of hate for especially the writers.
They had a rough period.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In fact, Eddie Murphy was
What do you
the one
call
that saved
now?
that show from what I hear.
Yeah, forgettable,
a
incredibly
struggle
forgettable.
is what I call it.
I don't know. That Dave Chappelle opening was the funniest thing that they've
That's
had on
all I
Saturday
watch.
Night Live in
I
like
was
a
listening to it
decade and a
today.
half. At
That's
least.
all I watch is the opening monologue. Depending on
Yeah.
who it is, that's all I
It was
watch.
the best show since the last time Dave Chappelle was on there.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
I thought it was crazy that he had hosted it not that long ago and he was back already hosting it.
I thought it was awesome. He came out and had his own, little disclaimer warning at the start, and then went way off in the crazy direction.
I love Chappelle, man.
You know what I love the best about him is nowhere in this country are you allowed to smoke indoors anywhere.
Yeah.
And he lights up that cigarette like "fuck you."
Yep.
I just love it.
That's
Is
that
that a
callback to
cigarette?
old school comedians because they did that.
That's it. I mean,
Yeah.
comedians
Drink that whiskey,
now
pop that
is
cigarette.
so-
That was the whole thing. The nightclub comedians.
and everybody's afraid to do that now in this culture. And Dave's like, "Fuck you, man! I'm doing what I do," and I love that.
He's a
We need
comedian.
somebody like
People
that.
forget that.
And
Yeah.
he's past being canceled. That's the thing. He's just
Yeah.
done. You're gonna do what? Fuck off.
Well, that's
Oh,
the
boy.
thing. Now, talking about going through the 70s and the controversy and everything that we're looking at here, that why are we so sensitive now? Where did that
It's
come
how we
from?
were raised. Each generation's,
yeah.
watered down the last, So it's
Let me tell you.
no
a
one
story
wants to get spanked anymore.
real quick. After
Well, they
I do.
do. They just don't want to do it.
I do.
They don't want to hurt their fifi.
if you
Go
guys
ahead, Rodney.
remember, after 9/11, one of the things that started happening on the radios, because before 9/11, they played unedited songs on the rock stations. Now, when 9/11 happened, very soon after that, they started editing all the songs. They started cutting things out. Words started becoming taboo.
Mm.
And that's how it all started. They started conditioning us to be sensitive to stupid shit.
I do find it funny that they can say the word bitch, but they can't say cocaine. They edit that in songs on the radio, and I find it hilarious. I'm like, but you can say bitch.
Well, that's
'cause
funny
they-
that happens and they decide to start editing everything. That's
Yeah.
Yeah, that ran back to the record companies too, and not the.
But
Yeah.
each generation is more watered down than the last. And,
Oh, yeah.
And when I said no one wants to get spanked anymore, I meant no one wants to give spankings anymore, because and that's the thing. It's discipline. The kids weren't raised the same as say we were or our parents before us. I don't know if it's something in the food, the water. I can't say it's television because look at All in the Family. That they were harder on their children than a lot of parents were on their actual children back then. So I don't know. I don't have an answer.
I
think
explain
it's
it.
getting
I
worse.
explain it as a pendulum swing, and you're seeing so much. They've gone from trying to be empathetic and accepting, getting enough of a thick skin to have a sense of humor, to being to the point where everything has to be serious and we can't step on anybody's toes, or we have to watch everything that we say for fear we're going to upset somebody.
Everything
Somewhere
has
in
to
the
be
line
safe.
we lost humility.
And you'll
Everything
see
has
that. Well, down the line, we lost a sense of humor. We lost the ability to be able to laugh at ourselves.
Right.
And that's one of the key points in education. That's why you had this big run of phenomenal comedians for the longest time. Your George Carlins, your Rodney Dangerfields, and all that, is because they were able to point at the human condition and make you laugh at your foibles and laugh at the things that you knew you weren't supposed to be laughing at.
So at some point, we just took things more serious than what they were and
Yeah.
ran with it.
You had a bunch of Karens out there going, "That's not funny. I'm triggered," and that's it.
But-
Just cut down from there.
Well, I kind of take it off of the the pendulum swing, but in a way where, for decades it was the more, I guess, right leaning or more conservative, more family friendly side that was getting offended.
Mhm.
So as culture kind of drifted on the other side, since there's just this natural rebellion to go against whatever's in the status quo, since now we're on the other side, now there's this big push of like radical thinking and individualist thinking that's kind of going the other way. So it seems to be, like Randy said, a pendulum swing, but then there's I don't know what the proper term is, but the part of society that is rebellious always brings it to the other side.
I think we're starting to see, just like to pull it back to our topic, that like the cutting edge that the 70s sitcoms were. We're going to get to a point. A lot of people already are. Dave Chappelle is a grand example, where the key words for everybody's going to be, "Oh, did I offend you? Fuck off."
Yeah. People are tired of it.
And everybody's getting tired of it. Is what it is. Even the virtue signalers are sitting there crying.
What do you think it was too
Look at all
much
this
too
stuff
soon?
Elon's going through now, and
Well, he's
at
trolling a
that
lot of
point where
people. He's kind of
going,
making
"Hey,
his own bed. So
free speech. Fuck
he's
off."
kind of making his own bed too. He's trolling a lot of folks and he's burning a lot of bridges. And I'm actually behind Elon Musk about 95%, but he's making his own bed. So.
Did you see his tweet from like yesterday?
Which one?
1.6 million new viewers or new add-ons on Twitter.
You know why? They
'Cause
come to
he's on
watch the
board.
shit show.
Yeah.
They're just sitting back eating that popcorn.
Well,
waiting
it
for it to go down.
always was a shit show.
Yeah, but now it's an actual show.
Now it's entertaining again.
Yeah.
The entertainment values popped up, but back in the 70s, to kind of hear your voice heard, if you were upset at something, you'd write an angry letter. There's always that joke of the old person. Oh, I'm going to write a letter that's going to swing minds. Now you got social media, you got YouTube, you have
Too many voices.
Yeah,
and see, that's where I'm kind of going. Did things like the 70s sitcoms and comedians, did that give us too much too soon?
Oh no.
Is that why we're all butthurt today?
No,
Because it was just
I think
too
it's
much?
a generation after that raised their kids with kid gloves on.
Sure.
Yeah.
And
That's when you get participation trophies.
yeah, participation trophies and timeouts in the corner instead of a
I
spanking.
mean, we all want a
Two
booty
words.
prize, but still.
2 words. Ready? Dr. Spock.
Yeah.
Fuck that guy.
You were starting to get those.
That was about
parenting
the
books.
70s
Yeah,
Yeah.
you were starting
when
to
he
get those
started
parenting
telling
books.
parents not to spank their kids. Yeah.
And of course, we
Did
now
he
have
have
the-
children, by the way?
Yes, he
Spock
did,
have-
and
he did?
committed suicide.
His kids or him?
His kid, his
Well,
son.
I wonder why.
I would have too.
But you had that, and that's how they were coming up. But then you also got participation trophies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you're worried about everybody's feelings. There's a
Which is-
there's a whole bunch of stuff that you look at. Sesame Street was used to indoctrinate that in that sense.
Yeah.
To be more sensitive.
It's like Ricky
think-
Bobby says: if you're not first, you're last, baby.
Well, damn it, Ricky Bobby, they're second and third.
Like I said, I think you're going to see a big kickback on that in the next 5 to 6 years. You'll see an evolution back where there's some great comedy coming out, some great entertaining, poignant humor out there to point at people and go, Karen, if you didn't like it, we're just having fun.
See, that's
here.
why guys
Go
like
away.
Judd Apatow started out strong, and then he kind of faded off because of all the actors, I guess, that he
Pussied
would use
out.
over and over again. Yeah, he pussied out.
Mhm.
He started out strong, and I
Yeah.
think that if he stayed true to how he began,
But
And again, would Judd Apatow have come out if John, what's his name? Oh, I just had his name. Hughes. Yes. John Hughes hadn't been out there doing the exact same thing, only
Well,
better.
the
than what-
difference
than
now
what
is,
Apatow ever did.
is Judd Apatow's got his hands tied around his balls because corporations are behind the cancellations.
It's got to be
They
some
don't
mighty
want to
small
get
ties.
canceled. Yeah, they don't want to get canceled, so they're going to go along with the youngins. So all the directors that had or have any balls have to get in line, or they're not going to get any work.
That's
It's
okay.
Like Joss
He
Whedon
kind of
can't even
deserves
tell
it.
a guy he's a shit actor anymore. You know?
Judd Apatow deserves it. He's the one that helped bring these people into Hollywood. People like Seth Rogen, who run their mouths about these type of things.
Mhm.
He's the one that did it.
Yeah.
So if he's getting his balls twisted because of this, well, guess what? You wanted to prove a point by making all those people famous.
Mhm.
That's what you wanted to do because they canceled your show and you threw a fit about it. So you ended up making people famous that maybe they shouldn't have as much power as they have.
And we
Yeah.
got James Franco.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's the de-evolution of comedy right there.
Yeah.
And that's not opinion. That's what he said.
Yeah. I still love Seth Rogen's thing about, oh yeah, everyone gets their car broken into. Not me, motherfucker.
I don't live in New York.
But Northfree says this wasn't a sitcom, but of course I remember this. The Rockford Files was great.
Yes.
Gardner living in a trailer on the beach, driving a cool car and lots of girlfriends. Also, when he hit someone, he sold his hand.
Well, it was one of those gems that it was dramatic, but it had a sense of humor at heart too.
Yes.
You know
It was
what I mean?
Maverick.
So,
It was Maverick. He was
Yeah.
playing the same character.
It was a character-driven show.
yeah.
too.
Yeah, and he's even though he played the same character most of the time, you know, Maverick, Rockford Files, Tank.
It worked for him.
Yeah,
That's who he was.
It worked, but
If
he
it
was
wasn't
still good.
for Rockford Files, we never would have gotten like MacGyver, probably.
Right? Yeah.
Burn Notice is another one that we wouldn't have gotten.
Well, a
Monk
lot
and
of-
Fyke, I'm a huge fan of those shows. We wouldn't have gotten those without Rockford Files.
Yeah. Yep. A lot of that character-driven material you wouldn't have gotten.
It was a shame when he passed, which was what I think 2016, 2017.
Yeah, it wasn't longer.
I think
Yeah,
he
it was
passed.
about 6 years ago.
And like I'm like, oh, Rip, James Gardner, Maverick, and somebody said who? I had the only way that I could tell them who they were was I had to use the Notebook.
As the old Ryan Gosling. Yeah, the old Ryan Gosling. That's who it was.
But Carson, we all saw news and images of Vietnam, so we needed comedy even more.
That's another.
It's just like now, we need comedy more than ever.
Oh,
I
we
wonder
do.
if Vietnam had the seriousness of Vietnam. I wonder if that led to us getting the more raunchier side of comedy in the 70s, like All in the Family.
Well,
And
that was also the last time that the draft was enacted. So
Yeah.
there was a lot of stress with the youth of America,
Mhm.
thus the rebellion.
Mm.
The youth of America today don't have to deal with that.
They don't have
you
to
know,
deal with
So
shit.
they
I
have
think-
time-
I-
they
I
have
don't think it
time
was-
to bitch about shit that's not important.
I don't think it was Vietnam as much as the exact opposite. I think the hippie movement, the attention to
Make
the
love.
ecology in the 60s, 68, Summer of Love, 69, 70s is what really brought in the more topical humor that Norman Lear's and that came out of that
Yeah.
a lot more than any stress that Vietnam had brought on. Because they made war funny with MASH.
Yeah.
Korean
Which
War,
was
yeah.
interesting because it was a war that was happening at the same time.
And yeah.
That's what's interesting.
And MASH, the movie MASH, is completely different from the TV show in feel and in content.
I love it.
It's two completely different properties because of the way that they went through and retooled it for a television show.
Mhm.
Yeah. You couldn't
but
do
it-
MASH
isn't that
as the
great,
movie
but-
today.
No, there's a lot of
But
stuff
I don't
you
think
can't do
it's-
today. No.
I don't think it's either or, and I think Rodney's right into some degree because you're also, like I said, you're coming out of the '60s. You're coming out now. You're 5 years deep into the civil rights movement. After the civil rights movement, after Jim Crow has been abolished, you have a war that people are adamant that we should not be in. That that was a conflict that no matter what side you're on, most agree that you should not have been in that. We should not have been in that war, and it was going to be one we were going to lose. Period. So there was a lot of stress on that grounds, and I think it was just time. Like the world had become. Not to mention, also one of the things too. What it was 7 years earlier, we watched a president get assassinated.
Mhm.
Well, and there was a 5-year recession in the 70s.
Oh,
Gas,
yeah.
gas shortages, and the 70s were a mess.
$4 gas under Carter. Yeah.
Yeah.
So poverty was actually like knocking on people's door at that point in time, and it was just
Sounds
a way
familiar.
of dealing with that.
Mhm.
Huh?
Let someone knock on my door
sounds
today.
familiar.
It better be the pizza guy.
DoorDash. Anyway,
Oh, don't
People
get
are
me
easily
started on
offended today.
DoorDash.
Chuck Jose Channel says most of us are too soft rather than hardcore. That's right. We need to get.
It's a true
That's
story.
all right. It's coming though. Donna says
Yeah.
people who
Yeah.
wanted to be friends with their kids instead of being parents. Absolutely.
That's what I was getting at, Donna. You know, each generation seems to be more watered down than the last. You know, and parents don't want to discipline their children. They'd rather talk to them when the kids don't
Yeah.
necessarily want to be talked to. They want to be taught. You know, they want to talk at you instead of to you.
yeah.
Yeah. Your parents to sit down. Tell me about your feelings, little Jimmy.
Yeah, you really don't want to know.
But I'm looking at this cast behind us, and we have the Barnaby Miller cast behind us.
I see hair.
Right? Yeah. No.
That you can't see. Yeah, a lot of gray hair.
Yeah. Wojo's comb over back there. I see.
Oh God.
I can put it on the overlay. I can't do it on the overlay. But
Just look at that. Look at that group. You know, Abe Vigoda went on to do Fish
Abe
for
Vigoda.
many years. And the guy there to the far right, whose face you can't see, is a really big character actor that's been everywhere.
Yeah.
Ron Glass ended up on Firefly.
Firefly, yeah.
Yeah.
wait, who is that?
I
The,
couldn't tell you his name, but he always sounded drunk on the show.
Yeah.
Always sounded drunk on
He
Barney
looks
Miller.
like John Noble, is what
He does,
that's what
he
I
does.
thought.
Yeah, he does, but it's
He
not
does.
him.
It's not.
Who are we talking about?
Who also sounds
The guy to the
drunk
far
when he
right.
talks.
The
guy
far
with
right,
far
right
right.
underneath the brand.
Right next to
It
Jared.
looks like John. It looks like Denethor.
him.
I can
Yeah.
look him up.
He
Yeah,
was,
give me a second.
I think, Barney Miller's boss. I think his direct
Yeah.
superior.
Yeah.
He was kind of out there.
But
Do you
I'm
remember,
looking at it. What
Ron
you don't
Livingston
hear.
was on there
sorry.
too.
Who?
Ron Livingston
As a
was
kid,
another. No,
Over here, to the left, right?
no, he's not in this picture.
Is that in the
Oh.
picture?
No, was that his name, Randy? Was it Ron Livingston or Steve Livingston?
Who?
so it could have been Ron because
The guy with
Ron would
the
have been
silver
a child.
glasses. Shit, I can't think of his name.
With the guy that
Hang
would
on, let
say
me pull over to the
racist
cast
trivia.
Hal Linden,
No,
Abe
Hal?
Vigoda, Max Gale was Wojo.
Wojo. Yeah,
Steve Landisberg was Arthur
Yeah,
Dietrich.
Steve Landisberg. That's it.
He was the guy with the glasses. Yeah.
Yeah,
Ron Carey was in that for quite a while. You're thinking the person that we're looking at is Inspector Frank Luger, played by James Gregory. And James went on to be one of those character actors in Hollywood that did all sorts of stuff.
yeah.
Jack
He was
Sue was in that playing Nick
Tamana.
Tamana. Yeah.
That's Ron Glass.
My biggest memory of Barney Miller that sticks out in my mind, the last show, everybody knew it was the last show right before they shut out the lights. And that's how they ended the show, as they shut the lights out on the precinct. The precinct was breaking up. Steve Guttenberg walked up to somebody and in the most deadpan face that you'd ever see goes,
Steve
Did I ever-
Gutenberg? No.
not Gutenberg. What's his Steve
Landisberg.
Landisberg. Sorry, not Gutenberg. Steve Landisberg
I'll say
walks
because
up
he's
to-
deadpan too. So
walks up to one of the other cast members, dead serious, and goes, "Did I ever tell you I was raised by wolves?"
He's probably my favorite character on the whole show. He just randomly say these non sequiturs,
Yeah.
just in the middle of something.
Yeah,
But my point is, you look at this though, and you take this one and WKRP.
Mm-hmm.
That sure is a diverse cast, isn't it?
Oh, yeah.
Character-driven show, yeah, filled with on purpose.
Yeah.
Because race was a big topic. Everybody was talking about their upbringing and their culture and all that, and they could exchange that between the two of them without worried about stepping on each other's toes. This is just the way it was. In my area, this is the way it is. In my area, this is the way it is. Oh, okay.
And this is a police show during a time when police were starting to get that backlash
Yeah.
from citizens and things.
Yep.
You had the Detroit riots not long before this. You had, all sorts of stuff that police weren't exactly in a good light
all kinds of
Well,
civil
publicly
unrest.
speaking.
This was also a point in time when Times Square wasn't it's before
Porn
Disney-
Central,
Yeah, it was Crime Central. It was
Yeah. crime
if
and porn
anybody's
central.
ever been to New York City before Disney bought Times Square, it was a cesspool. I was there a couple of times, 3 times, and yeah,
Major mess.
it was
The-
quite
The
an
other,
experience.
go ahead. Sorry.
No, it was Disney did the world a favor when they bought Times Square because it
Oh, see,
completely
Disney did
changed the
something good.
landscape of New York City.
The big thing with Barney Miller, though, is everybody that walked into that precinct was a character. They were already well defined when they walked in, and half of them were just these old, sometimes Broadway veterans, older people that would just walk in and play the most obscure, crazy character that you can imagine. It just added to the flavor of the entertainment and bounced off of the cast.
Yeah.
It's
You
just
could watch an episode from
great
season 1 and an episode from season 8, and they flow just perfectly. Like you said, Randy, each show was a play.
Yeah.
And it was just character actors on top of character actors, and it was just great.
It was.
You also had like a lot of running gags that really made the show cool too. Like Nick Yamana's coffee. Like the whole running gag was his coffee was horrible, and they'd offer it to someone. They taste it.
Let's take a couple of bumps and we'll be right back.
Bump it.
Bump it.
Your favorite podcast, it's Critical Blast.
Have a question or comment for us to address on the show? Have a topic you want us to talk about? Email us at indiecomicsnetwork@gmail.com. Want your comics to arrive in pristine condition? Head over to GeminiComicSupply.com and save 10% on your next Gemini mailer order or anything in the Gemini Comic Supply store. Use coupon code RAGIN10. That's RAGIN 10.
Damn, Mitch, you timed that pretty good.
That was almost seamless. Almost.
But no, what was working for these shows was that ensemble cast. This, WKRP, Star Wars, that kind of thing. It was
Star Wars.
That was a hilarious show.
Hello?
It was sometimes.
My computer zoned out. What'd you say?
I said, well, you were like this. There's a lot of ensemble shows at this time. That was Mary Tyler Moore Show. Even though it was called the Mary Tyler Moore Show, it was an ensemble cast. You wouldn't have had it without Ed Asner or Ted McKnight. Oh my gosh,
Ted Knight. Just
Hello, people. Yeah.
One of the biggest ensemble casts of the 70s was the Carol Burnett Show.
that's true.
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah, that was a skit show though.
I will watch that to this day.
There's
Oh,
a
yeah.
lot of these shows I'd watch to this day.
Carol
Tim
Burnett
Conway
stuff
was
pops up on
awesome.
YouTube. I will
yeah.
stop
Playing
whatever
Harvey-
I'm doing.
Harvey
and
Foreman.
watch
Oh my
it.
God.
God, yeah.
Well, what's interesting is Vicki Lawrence is still going around, and she came here not too long ago. Well, it might be longer than I thought, but she's going around being Mama.
from the Carol Burnett show. You know, Thelma.
That's because that's what people know her
Thelma
as. You know,
Yeah,
they don't
Thelma.
realize she's an actual comedian. You know, which is
Well, Carol-
sad because she was on Carol Burnett show, but you know, a lot of people don't know her as her own comedian.
Well, remember she also had a hit song too.
She
yeah,
did.
the night
She
the night
did,
the lights
yeah.
went out in Georgia. Yeah.
Yeah.
The lights went out in Georgia. So, well,
Yeah,
she won
had
the
a
whole.
sh- I'm sorry. Go
Oh,
ahead.
go ahead. Well, no, I
she
said
had
she
a-
actually got. You go ahead,
Like-
bitch.
Okay. She had a great show on TV a few years ago called The New Kids or The Cool Kids.
Oh
It was
yeah,
It was
yeah.
her, David Allen Greer, Martin
Leslie
Mull,
Betty
and
White,
Leslie
right?
Jordan.
Wasn't
Yeah.
Betty White on there?
No,
Or- no.
No,
no, that's hot in Cleveland.
that was
Oh,
not
same thing.
Cleveland.
I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah, The Cool Kids was like her, David Allen Greer, Martin Mull, and Leslie Jordan were like they lived in this old folks community, and they were like the renegades
Yeah.
that always got in trouble.
And it was
Is it
hilarious.
still come
It
on?
I
was.
forgot about that show. Well,
Yeah.
Leslie Jordan's dead. So
He just died a
Well,
couple
no,
months.
yeah, I know that, but
Yeah.
that's what that's what I was thinking is because it seemed like they were saying something about it still, and it sounded like it was still in production. I'm
No,
kinda
he-
wondering if it moved somewhere else.
he was on another show called Call Me Cat with Maya Bialik, and he was
Ah,
either
okay.
on the way to film it or on the way back from filming it when he got into his car wreck.
Okay,
Mm.
yeah, that's a shame. That's a loss.
Yeah,
I liked him in just about everything he was in.
Leslie Jordan?
yeah, little, older gay guy. He was just a ball of energy. He was
So
just
he died in a car crash?
yeah.
Yes.
Oh, I didn't know that. I thought he
Oh, I thought it was like old.
Yeah.
No, older happy
No.
guy.
Cogs.
Yeah.
No, it was he wrecked. Yeah,
Yeah.
Huh.
it was a pretty bad one from what I understand. Well, I mean, obviously it was he died.
Yeah,
but-
that little tiny man had so much energy. He just-
Oh, he was great. I loved
he
him.
was-
But I didn't really watch Will and Grace, but I do remember seeing him coming up against Megan Malawi, who played Karen, and
Yeah.
that was funny enough.
That was a great show, too.
yeah, that's just two balls of charisma right there.
Yeah.
But what's Brown Dog asked, what's been missed briefly? The 70s. That's what's been missed. You missed the 70s, man.
The,
So I got a
the
list-
whole decade.
That's right. So I
No
got a
one
list here
remembers
of
the
some-
70s.
Oh, nobody remembers the 70s.
I do.
A lot
I
of
remember
cocaine.
the 70s. Come on.
A lot of cocaine that decade for me.
But I do have a list of some of the dark stuff that happened during these shows in the 70s. And one of the top ones is Edith's sexual assault.
Yeah, I remember. Yeah.
And what it is, for those who don't know, is somebody posed as a detective, came in there and tried to sexually assault her, and she slammed like a cake or a casserole or something in his face.
Yeah.
And he was able to get away.
Yeah.
The real twisted thing about this is they're talking, Suzanne, not Suzanne Summers, the lady that South Park always made fun of, his
There's
daughter.
a lot of them.
Everybody.
Sally Struthers.
Sally
Sally
Struthers.
Oh, yeah,
Struthers, thank you.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you. Sally Struthers, is trying to get her to go and tell the cops, but Archie's like, well, what if they turn it against her? Like, he's just not.
Look how she dresses. She was asking for it.
Yeah, I mean, something along those lines.
In the first or second season, there also was an episode where Gloria got raped, but it wasn't but it was completely off screen. Edith's was like the entire show was her being assaulted.
That was
entire
really
episode.
well acted too. She,
Yeah.
it was almost real the way the emotion she had. That was pretty great.
She was very
Sad, but great at the same time.
She was a phenomenal actress.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Gene
Oh,
Stapleton.
Archie.
And a lot
Oh,
younger than what
Archie.
she acted on All in the Family, too.
Well, that was the case with
Carol
like Good
O'Connor
Times.
too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
Well, like with
hands
Good
down.
Times, Florida was like 20 years older than John Amos, so that was commonplace. But they actually use Edith's sexual assault to train police still in I think New York, or they used it to train police in New York. So I guess look for the signs, what have you. So that means to tell me that whoever
So
wrote
don't
that
rape anyone if
episode,
they have a casserole.
right?
Handy.
Well, what that tells me is that when they wrote this show, they must have researched sexual assault, or somebody close to the show had been sexually assaulted that they
I'm
decided
sure.
to address that.
Yep.
Yeah.
So then the next thing that comes up on the list is the first death of a character in a comedy, which was MASH. The
Blake.
in a comedy now, in a comedy.
Henry Blake.
Henry
Blake.
Blake. Yeah.
Yeah, they kind of did a psych out on that one though, didn't they?
Yeah, because he was supposed to have been going home, like he was like discharged or something.
Yeah,
Wasn't
his plane was shot down over the Sea of Japan.
Yeah.
And they were all standing there in surgery and got the news over the intercom.
Mm-hmm.
And they all stood there and cried and kept doing their jobs.
Yeah, it basically to have that mindset that you're doing a sitcom, and the one that played Hawkeye, I can't remember what his name is.
Alan Alda.
Alan Alda, right? And he did. I wouldn't be surprised if he directed that episode because he really took it, and he was the one that kind of took it in that serious tone, wasn't he?
He was also one of the writers for a long time on there too. So,
but so it kind of took
I think
a
he
different
directed
tone
a lot of
didn't
that, some of that stuff too.
Yeah,
yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, like so, it kind of took a different tone where it was really like. Of course, the war probably at this point in time I think had been over. So now you're really you have this platform now where it was a comedy, and at first you could look at it like it was Hogan's Heroes or F Troop or whatever the case is, but that really wasn't. They wanted to show you, and it's pretty admirable to stop at a certain point and address the reality of.
Here's a realities episode for you. I don't know if any of you remember this. The episode where they were hiding from the Chinese and they had to smother a baby to death because it was crying.
It's the last episode.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, they
It was he was telling a therapist about it, and he was saying it was a chicken, but at the end of it, you find out that the chicken is kind of replaced in his mind. It was actually a baby because the baby was crying. Yeah.
That's what I was meaning by it was a mind-bending episode earlier. It's just brilliant and sad and great.
Poignant.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Now the next thing, which is kind of interesting to me, which I wouldn't consider a dark episode, Mitch, but apparently this list finds it a dark episode. I don't know if it was written by PETA, maybe so, but
PETA.
It's the Turkeys Don't Fly episode of WKRP. It's considered a
I
dark.
sincerely doubt that was written by PETA.
No, I'm talking about the list.
The list. That is on the same list as Edith's sexual assault. No.
The episode from WKRP, which should be on that list, is the episode after the Who concert.
Yeah, that was a dark episode.
Oh, which one was that one?
After the Who concert, because Mr. The boss, Mr. Carlson, went to the Who concert, and he came back into work the next day, and he was so happy he had such a great time. And he was so surprised that he liked that rock and roll band, and he had no idea that 8 kids had died. And he came in, and everybody was real sullen and everything, and then told him the news. Yeah. And also the episode where where Johnny Fever argued with the priest or the church about the Beatles' Imagine, or
no, that was Arthur Carlson.
John Lennon's
too.
Imagine.
Yeah,
because the preacher was, this is a shock, trying to control what the station played. By saying this is offensive, this isn't offensive, and the whole thing started
was
with
big. Censorship was raging back during that time. That's why they did that episode.
And then the interesting thing about those episodes is, back then there were only 4 channels, and it was scheduled TV watching. You had to watch it, or you had to wait until the summer reruns. So it was advertised. It was in the TV guide. Everybody talked about it at school or at work. So on Tuesday night, your ass was in the seat and you had Channel 9 on and you were watching MASH, or you were watching WKRP in Cincinnati. And I mean, it was, must-see TV came from that, because it's
before DVR. And
your lives were scheduled around the TV shows at night.
Yes. Yep.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
Especially
if there was a miniseries. If there was a miniseries that came out, like what was it? The Magnificent Seven was a miniseries.
Well, the first
Lonesome Dove.
The first miniseries was Roots.
Yeah,
I remember Roots. Yeah.
And did the Thornbirds.
Yep.
Then after that,
The Thornbirds. That's what I think I was thinking of. Yeah.
Every woman in the South was raised on Thornbirds.
Mhm.
Yes,
Yeah,
my
I
mother.
agree.
Mhm.
You haven't heard about the Thornbirds, Jared?
Mm-mm.
No, it's,
No.
isn't it a preacher?
I'm from the
that-
South.
a
I'm not a
priest?
woman, but I am from the South.
So Richard Chamberlain as a ninja.
He was a priest.
That's
preacher.
why I don't know it, because that's too believable for me. I don't.
Lead in that. I don't remember.
It probably was Richard
remember.
Chamberlain,
I'm
right?
pretty sure it was Richard Chamberlain.
Yeah. When he said his name, it kind of rang a bell. But
Now we know. But
I
who was the
haven't seen
real female?
It was Richard Chamberlain
Okay.
and Rachel Ward.
Rachel Ward.
Barbara Stanwyck was in
Barbara
it.
Barbara Stanwyck. There you go.
Yeah. Christopher Plummer was the Archbishop.
Yeah.
That sounds about right.
And then a couple of other faces here and there.
That's a
They're
big
still
time
alive.
classic miniseries like Rich Man, Poor Man.
Oh,
Oh, yeah.
What,
Q
another
was
one
in
I'd
it.
stay away from.
Q, he had to be young. John Delancey? My gosh, he had to be
He had
young.
to have
when he
been.
was
Oh, yeah.
He's probably a kid.
Probably. And not too
But,
young. It's
Young
about
adult,
10
I
years-
should say.
10
Young
years
adult.
before Q. Yeah.
Yeah, young adult.
But Donna, which episode was a big uproar? Was it the MASH episode or was it the Turkeys episode? I'm curious. I want to know. Was it a big?
I still
uproar
can't
about
believe they
Turkey
thought the
episode?
turkey episode was dark.
Well, you look at WKRP and you got Herb,
Yeah.
and,
Your big turkey.
and not Morgan Fairchild, Lonnie Anderson's character.
Yeah, Jennifer, the
Yeah, and I mean
the
you could pretty
secretary,
much-
who's also the highest paid person at the station.
Yeah.
I
She
remember
had
that
the
episode.
biggest assets.
Mm.
Two of them.
She's probably the most intelligent person at the station, too. So.
She was.
Which is,
Yeah.
But what's crazy to me about that? Yeah, it was an ensemble cast,
It's hard
but
to
the
believe.
guy who was the main character for that show, I guess you would say, maybe
Was it John
it
Hess?
really was an ensemble, but the one that came
No,
in
the
to run
typical white
station.
guy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Gary
Yeah.
Sandy.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It was
Gary
I can't even tell you what his
Yeah.
name is.
Gary
Andy
Sandy.
Travis was the character.
Andy Travis. Yeah.
Yeah. The last MASH episode. Okay.
Yeah.
A lot of people were upset they killed the baby. Yeah, I can imagine. Because that's not a movie. That's on TV.
It was okay when it was a chicken.
And that was in the 80s.
yeah.
So
Well,
yeah.
see, now it wouldn't be okay.
Well, no,
But
PETA was mad then. That's why they turned it into a
that
baby.
turkey episode would have been more uproarious than the MASH episode.
That's why they turned it into a baby. PETA was like, we can't kill chickens. Is it okay if it's a baby?
I don't think that's how that works.
Yes,
Yeah.
a human baby is fine. No chickens were hurt in the filming of this episode.
I hope no
Oh, they-
babies were hurt either. But
They probably had some long talk with the censors at that point.
Well, it was in
but-
South Korea, right? So I mean,
about
you know,
about
they-
being
they
able
did
to
that to
do that.
children.
which I promise this wasn't planned, but the next one is Maud's Dilemma.
oh yeah,
Oh,
Which
that
was
is
the
a
abortion
dark
episode.
episode.
And
The,
basically she was
abortion episode,
older,
right?
she'd gotten
Yeah.
pregnant. And and they were talking about a very, very very serious episode. In fact, I can't remember. I always want to call her husband Arthur, but I don't think that was his name. Maud's
it's probably
husband.
interchangeable. I don't remember what it was.
Yeah, well, he wasn't.
No one
the star,
remembers
was
his her husband's
he? Everybody
name.
remembers B. Arthur. That's
Yeah.
why. That's probably why I think he's.
And
But,
Adrian Barbeau.
That episode was so serious that CBS refused to air it. So
Didn't he?
Well-
the husband didn't he physically die during the show, and they
No,
killed
no,
him
he
off
was
on
still he was alive for a while because I remember he was on the second episode of Tales from the not Tales from the Crypt, Tales from the Dark Side, which was like 10 years after Maud ended, I think.
Okay.
Yeah, it was Bill Macy. He was Walter Fitton.
Macy.
Walter was his name.
Walter
Uh,
Arthur, it's interchangeable.
Yeah, he just passed in 2019.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Bill Macy. No, I got. No. Oh, all right. Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
yeah. I mean, he's. You see, a lot of times he was like a boss of somebody or something like that too.
Mhm.
I remember seeing you wouldn't think looking at him in Maud, but he's just later on he looks kind of different. But
He's one of those
yeah,
go-to
man.
actors.
Rue McClanahan was in that too.
Yeah.
Esther Raleigh.
yeah, I think she even made a joke about Betty White in that show. So
Well, she
Because,
never
you know,
really liked her to begin with.
no, not at. she didn't like her cheery disposition. Well, in Golden Girls, they had approached Drew McClanahan to play
Rose
Betty
Nyland.
White, Rose Island, and they approached Betty White to play Blanche because
Wouldn't
of her
that have been
character
hilarious?
on Mary Tyler Moore show, huh?
I couldn't see that any other way now,
Yeah.
Wait, but you got to think in the 70s, you had the Mary Tyler Moore show, and if you go and watch that, you would not look at, you might look at Cloris Leachman the same, but you wouldn't look at Betty White the same.
No. If you ever see Raising Hope, you never see Cloris Leachman the same.
Yeah, that was a great show. That was awesome.
But that's how kind of Cloris Leachman was kind of grabby in Mary Tyler Moore show, wasn't she?
Yeah, I guess to an extent, but not that
Always
bad.
a bawdy comedian. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
She was gonna be Phyllis
she was
Diller.
toned down in the
Frankenstein.
Facts of Life when they brought her onto there to replace.
Did they
Mrs.
bring her
Garrett.
into Facts of Life? I don't.
Yeah,
remember
she
that.
replaced Mrs. Garrett when they had that store, and George Clooney
When
was
they-
on there.
Yeah, when they got older. Yeah.
Yeah.
I stopped watching it at that point in time.
Yeah.
It wasn't interesting anymore.
Well, she was no Mrs. Garrett, but she was Cloris Leachman.
No.
But she was no Mrs. Garrett.
Well, I forgot
Who
all
is?
about that.
you know?
You just mentioned it. That's fun.
Yeah, I forgot all
Yeah.
about that too.
Yeah.
All right. Oh, and this one I did not know. I was researching. Ted Danson was on Laverne and Shirley for a minute.
Really? I feel
Yeah,
like
he
I've
has
seen every
toupee.
episode, and I do not remember that.
I didn't catch the name, but he was apparently dating Laverne,
No kidding.
and he was a fireman, and he was going to propose to her, but then the bell went off, and he left. So you can guess what happened.
Oh, he got burnt up.
He died. Yeah.
He got burnt
Yeah,
up.
Wow.
it was a pretty-
He
I
got
was going to
burnt.
say
dark woman.
he second guessed her and left.
I was gonna say she got burnt, but
Ran off and bought a bar. Who knew?
Yep.
he lied. He wasn't an
What a-
actual ball player. He was a fireman.
Ran out of
What a
Milwaukee and
liar.
ran to
That's one thing I
Boston
can
and
say.
bought a bar.
That's one thing I can say. We'll talk about it when we get to the age. I was never a Cheers fan, per se.
Oh, man.
Really?
I
I
was.
Wow.
would watch it, but I wasn't really a big fan, and I wasn't a
I'm
fan
disappointed.
of Ted Danson.
I'm disappointed
But
in you.
no, but to be completely honest
Sorry,
with you,
I can't wait
love
to
Ted
talk-
Danson. I
Yeah.
love Ted Danson now.
So you're more of a
Everything he's in,
Becker
he's
guy
gold.
than a Cheers guy?
A what?
A Becker guy instead of a Cheers guy?
Oh, I did like Becker.
See, I
I
figured,
did
yeah.
like Becker. But did you ever see? He did a TV movie of Gulliver's Travels.
Yes, he did.
The
Yeah.
best version of Gulliver's Travels that has ever been. Of course, he played Gulliver, and
I don't
he
know if
did
there
such
has been a good one.
job. Huh?
I said I don't know if there has been a good one.
That one was. It was a miniseries. It was because it was closer to the Jonathan Swift novel.
Sure.
So, and then of course we have the Sammy Davis episode, and I am not going
Of
to
All in the
repeat
Family.
here on YouTube what he asked Sammy Davis.
I think
Jr.
you should play that
about
scene.
his religion and his race.
I think you should play that scene. See what happens.
Wait, that's also on the list of dark episodes.
Yes, yes. I don't know because not the kiss. It's not the kiss that was the problem. It's what Archie asked Sammy Davis.
Yeah.
But that's not dark though.
I don't think so either. Well, I don't think the turkeys are dark either.
At the time, it was more taboo. We've become
Oh, yeah.
desensitized in
Yeah.
today.
Yeah.
You got to look in perspective wise back in the 70s.
A lot of
There's
that.
things
was
you don't talk
breaking
about.
ground.
There's things you don't ask.
Yeah.
Yeah, and of course the number one dark one was we already talked about was the MASH
Mhm.
episode, and I included James Evans dying because that's a pretty poignant scene. I included in the because I can still hear Esther Roll making that damn. She does it so well. You feel
Yeah.
that loss. So
She was a good actress.
she was.
Well, I was a kid, and I remember me and my siblings sitting around watching it. We all cried
Yeah.
because James was the father on TV, and
Mhm.
it was pretty powerful to see her do that. It was, it was. We got attached to our TV characters.
Was correct me if I'm wrong, but James used to take off his belt, didn't he?
Oh yeah,
He
Oh,
used to
he would
go out
chase
there, right?
JJ.
yeah.
Oh yeah,
He would take his belt off and chase him.
Yeah.
and I don't think they were showing that kind of thing on anything else.
That's what I mean. A lot of times, the parents on these TV shows were a lot harder on their children than in actual reality. And that's what I think is hilarious that they don't have discipline anymore. You let your kids walk all over you today.
Well, I think
Ralph Cramden would always threaten to beat his wife.
Yeah, to the moon. Alice.
Yeah, right.
But he did it lovingly.
But no,
And
but
it
he
was a
can't-
loving way, Randy.
No.
You're right.
And every time he did it, she stood up to him.
I love you, bitch, but I'm gonna knock you out.
Well, look at the relationship between Lucy and Ricky.
Oh yeah.
You know,
Oh yeah. Yeah,
she
that
was one of
fought today.
the first cry victim people.
Oh, she was too, wasn't she?
She'd always go out and get herself into trouble and then cry victim.
And Ricky's like, "I told you so."
Yeah.
But in a
before-
better accent.
And even
But
that
before we
was
go-
groundbreaking. You know,
Yeah.
just
Let
to
me
have
give a
him
shout-
on there married to Lucille Ball was big.
And if we didn't have
Oh, yeah.
Lucille Ball, we wouldn't have Star Trek.
No, wouldn't have a lot of things.
This is true. This is
You
true.
wouldn't have Carol Burnett either, huh? You wouldn't have had that one.
You wouldn't have a lot of things if it wasn't for
Yeah.
Lucille Ball.
Yeah.
Lucille, yeah, they were definitely. But to shout out a couple of shows, you had Alice,
Mm,
which for
Yeah.
a long time I thought Alice's Restaurant was
diner.
Or Alice doesn't live
Alice's
here
Diner,
anymore.
that's
Yeah.
right, yeah. That wasn't it. That was nothing to do with the sitcom. Of course, you have Mork and Mindy, which we might bring that one up in the 80s.
I love
used it
that,
in the
man.
But Mork and Mindy. Well, you had all those spinoffs from Happy Days,
Yeah.
and Happy Days spun off Laverne and Shirley, and it spun off Mork and Mindy. What the hell were they doing on Happy Days, man?
Joey loves Chachi.
Drugs.
They
Jody
were
loves
making
Chachi,
huge
yeah.
ratings. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Well, okay.
Pam
correct me if
Dauber
I'm
was
wrong,
like
but,
my first crush.
Mm-hmm.
but Happy Days is almost like a live action Archie to me.
Yeah, yeah.
It's just-
Yeah.
it's like-
Yeah.
Very much so.
That's fair. Yeah, that's pretty good.
Yeah.
Good, fair.
And two of the most catchy opening songs, "Happy Days" and Laverne and Shirley's
Oh, those are
opening
great.
songs are just great. And Barney Miller's doom, doo, doo, doo,
Do-do-do-do.
Yep.
doo.
That bass line just doesn't.
Yeah,
Yep.
it's great.
Still holds up.
let's
But
see, what else?
Happy Days sprung off of a sketch comedy show called Love American Style.
Yep.
For the episode Love in the Happy Days. That's how they even got the title. Because it
Didn't know
was
that.
such a unique thing to show 1950s family, in a more modern texture. And I think Love American Style was early 70s.
Yeah.
And they were also, being topical about relationships, but they were
Yes,
quick.
they were.
There were 2 or 3 skits every episode.
Okay.
And Happy Days was kind of the forerunner of that 70s show in a way. Because it was, like Randy
Oh,
said,
yeah.
it was a contemporary show set in 20 years previous. And in the late 90s, we had that with that 70s show.
Well, the same thing but
And
how
I think
of it, it's more of a dramedy, but Wonder
Years.
Wonder
Wonder
Years, yeah.
Happy Days was really what really cemented that on television with American Graffiti, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Ron
Which also
Howard,
had
right?
Ron
Just,
Howard.
Again, ahead of his time.
And Cindy Williams.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Harrison
Cindy
Ford.
Yeah, and
Williams,
Cindy Williams.
Suzanne
Yeah, that's true.
Summers.
I
Yeah.
forgot about that.
Yeah.
Who's who?
Another great movie. Yeah.
Harrison
But
Ford.
here's another
Harrison
show.
Ford.
Here's a show that we didn't talk about, and it was kind of taboo to go and admit that you were seeking therapy, but they made a whole show out of it.
Bob
The
Newhart.
Bob Newhart Show.
Oh,
I
yeah.
thought you were gonna say The Sopranos.
That didn't come
The
around until the
70s?
90s.
That's
was
what
it?
I was thinking. I was
The
like, wait,
Sopranos,
what?
yeah,
I
I
was
don't know
thinking
what
In
he's talking
Treatment from Showtime.
You not just that, but like Bob Newhart used a lot of his patients as humor.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Which is probably one of the reasons why therapy is taking so long to get
But there was a lot of
Because of
humor,
live
Bob Newhart humor in that show. I mean, it was
Oh,
a
yeah.
vehicle
right.
for Bob. Yeah,
He was a great dry comedian, though, wasn't he?
very much
He's
so.
still
Yeah.
around.
Is
He's
he?
still around.
Mhm.
He'll show up every once in a while. He's 96. Norman Lear is still around at 100 years old.
Norman Lear is alive. I saw that when they
Yeah.
did they reenacted his sitcoms on TV about a year ago.
Yeah.
I was
He
like,
just
holy
turned
crap,
100
he's
back
still
in June, so.
he's still kicking. Holy crap!
He doesn't look like he's slowed down any.
No.
I'll give him that. And this show right here, welcome back, Cotter.
Oh yeah,
Oh my God!
Oh.
Yes,
Gosh.
yeah.
welcome. Love that show.
Gave us John Travolta.
I know that's why I don't like that show.
Wait, did Welcome Back, Kotter give us John Travolta, or did it unleash him upon the world?
A little of both. Yeah.
Grease solidified him, but
Randy,
yeah.
remember his Band-Aid commercial? He did a Band-Aid commercial. He was in the shower. I am stuck on Band-Aid because Band-Aid stuck on me.
How old was he then?
God, he was probably 18.
No shit.
He
Okay.
did that Band-Aid commercial. Then he was really.
Hey, look, Band-Aid stuck on me.
Yeah, pretty much.
All right.
But okay, but
Was he dancing in the shower?
Mr. Cotter.
Was he on Welcome Back, Kotter at the same time he did the Boy in the Bubble?
Oh, yeah,
Boy in the
I forgot about
plastic
that.
bubble. He was
Yeah, I
big
forgot about that.
from Welcome Back, Kotter. Yeah, that
Yeah.
Boy in the Plastic Bubble made for TV movie. Yeah.
Yeah, I forgot about that one.
He did that on one of the off seasons. Yeah.
Paul Williams soundtrack on that. Yeah.
Yeah, don't get me wrong.
The short
I do think
short
that he
ape
can
in
act.
Planet of the Apes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Dr.
I do think he can. I do
Zayas?
think he can act. I'm not bothered.
Who knew?
He's just
Randy
He's
did.
in one of my favorite movies,
I
so
did.
I can't say much.
Who? John Travolta?
Mm-hmm. Pulp
Battlefield
Fiction.
Earth. Oh,
Pulp Fiction.
okay.
Battlefield
Thought you were-
Earth.
Thought you were going to say Battlefield Earth.
No, that's the one that ruined his career again, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Well, I think it's funny. Pulp Fiction brought him back to life, and then he was like, "Hey, you know what's a good idea? Battlefield Earth. I'm gonna fund it myself." Dumbass.
Carl says
That
James
was his
Kaplan
religion.
did well with his
Yeah.
stand-up about growing up with those characters, but the series was different. Well,
Yeah.
I didn't mind the show really, honestly. I remember seeing what was his not Rorschach. What was the goofy kid on that show?
Horseshack.
His name?
Horseshack.
Arnold.
Rorschach?
Arnold Horseshack.
Arnold
was it?
Horseshack. Yeah.
Horseshack, right? Him
They-
and
They had an
Scrooge
Epstein
go at
on
it.
that show too, by the way.
Yeah, there was
No
Ron
doubt.
Epstein.
No
There
doubt.
was Washington. What was Washington's first name? Vinny Boom Boom Washington,
Yeah.
and John Travolta.
All right, going down the line. Rodney, tell us where we can find you, sir.
Hey everybody, you can find me at Facebook, Instagram, and Twitch at Rodney Fyke Art. You can also find me at Hasm YouTube, Hasm's YouTube channel, or go to hasm.com. That's HAZZUM.com, where you can check out all of our books. And today I mailed out the international packages for Roadkill Rampage 3. So all the packages are out. So check those out. And you can find me Thursday nights on the Indie Comics Network for Thursday Night Throwdown, as well as Sketchy Saturdays at 10 a.m.
All right.
Which are Thursday night throwdowns on a Wednesday this week. Yeah.
Yes, we're doing a Wednesday night version, and actually C's going to be joining us tomorrow night.
Yeah.
What time are you on tomorrow night? I got ZimmCast tomorrow night.
We're on at 8 o'clock.
Okay.
Yeah, we usually go till 9:30.
Randy, go ahead.
I'll be on ZimmCast tomorrow night, 10 o'clock, 10 p.m. with hopefully with Mitch, and we'll have Hart Fisher as a guest. So Mitch and I will probably not get a word in edgewise. It'll be great. Looking forward to it. Then you can also find us Friday morning. You can find me Friday morning. I do a show at 5 a.m. called Comics by Night, where we talk about the more inner workings of sequential art. This episode, this Friday, with Russ Leach and Glenn Fleming, we will be looking at a phenomenally huge art book of all Steranko art. Looking forward to it. Last episode, if you missed last episode, Russ pulled out an artisan IDW volume of John Buscema's Avengers work, and we went through and deciphered that, going through panel to panel, picture by picture, and talking about what worked, what didn't work. Well, nothing did not work with John Buscema. Everything was just great. Steranko's the same way. Just great people, great books, and that's Comics by Night at 5 a.m. Friday mornings, and we're also archived over at the Indie Comics Network if you can't get up that early. I completely understand. Then on Sunday mornings at 9 a.m., I do the Sunday Funnies, where we get a group of people together to talk about the comics that they love, the sequential art that inspires them and keeps them going and helps them do what they do. And so if we try to be very up on both of those shows. ZimmCast is the other direction. It gets a little opinionated. We talk comic news. But Comics by Night, Friday mornings, 5 a.m., Sunday Funnies, 9 a.m. On Sundays. All of those times are Eastern Standard Time. So join me there. Look for me as Arrow Comics on all of the social platform. Arrow Comics 4.0 technically right now. We're going to drop the 4.0 here real quick. So expect Arrow Comics to be doing a lot more stuff in 2023. We've got a lot of plans. It's going to be a lot of fun, and we hope that you come along and read our stuff. So see you then. I think that's everything. I'm in Comics Unlimited 11. If you want a history of Arrow Comics, pick up Comics Unlimited 10 and 11. I'm doing a series on the different phases of Arrow Comics. It's got a long, illustrious career.
Up until 4.0?
Well, 4.0 will probably be in episode 13, I think. So we'll see. Yeah. I'm working on the episode Arrow Comics 3.0 right now. So,
good deal.
Yeah,
Hey,
it's been a
Jared.
lot of fun reliving stuff. Anyway, yeah.
Randy Zimmerman, everybody.
Here all night. If you want to read something I wrote, you can catch War of the Worlds Infestation on Amazon. It's been available for years. It'll be available for a lot longer. It's a great pulpy story about an updating of War of the Worlds. So War of the Worlds Infestation on Amazon now.
All right, Jared, go ahead.
Sorry, I wasn't going to say
Sorry.
anything because I didn't know
I
if he
can
was
just keep
done.
going. Can we keep going?
No.
Okay.
We got Calico and no, just kidding. Go on, Jared.
That's why I didn't say anything.
I'll
yet,
shut up.
So.
I'll shut up.
So I'm Jared Lockhart. You can find me at Jared Lockhart 80 on Facebook, Twitter, and all that good stuff. But I also have Hive and now, but I don't. My phone won't let me put my picture on there, so you might not find me. But and if you look up Zombie McNasty, odds are you're gonna find me.
There you go.
So yeah, that's me. I'm working on some stuff. Got some stuff in the pot cooking. Hopefully it tastes good. I don't know yet. We'll see. But keep your eyes out. 2023.
Sweet.
Zombie
Mitch.
McNasty is your Twitter handle, isn't it?
Maybe.
It
Okay.
was YouTube, that's for sure.
I actually posted on Twitter today for the first time since I've had it, and that's been like 10 years.
Enjoy it while it
Is
lasts.
there
No,
anybody
just-
here? Question mark. Yeah.
Mitch.
We'll find
Yes.
the zombie.
You can find me at Linktree/Celtic Cross Studios, where you can find my webcomics, my website. You can find my new release, The Boger Southern Gothic, for sale on my website. And if you're interested, still the original graphic novel collection of The Boger, also at the same website. So,
All right.
here you go.
All right. And of course, I'm C Michael Lanning. You can find me at Linktree/C Michael Lanning, which goes to my Facebook. Don't have a Hive yet. I have a Mastodon. So we'll find out what other prehistoric animals we got. Of course, Calico and Shard for Arrow Comics. And of course, join us next week as we talk about holiday humbugs and things.
I
Well,
got
we'll be
so
going
much
over
humbugs.
holiday movies and all sorts of weird stuff next week. Because guess what? You're going to go and you're going to have a happy Thanksgiving. You're going to come back and it's going to be the Christmas season and we're going to torture you. Let us start your torture right with going over some, let's say, raunchy Christmas movies, right? I mean, there's some pretty raunchy ones out there.
Bad Santa.
Well, I wouldn't really consider it torture because it's the Christmas season. And now, if this episode was before Halloween, that would be torture.
I'll have to do that next year. We'll have to see if we make it next
Oh,
year. We'll
fuck
do
that
that.
shit. Okay.
All right. All right. Goodbye, everybody.
Yes, I can see it now. It's a helicopter. Something behind it, I can't quite make it out. It's a large banner, and it says, Happy Thanksgiving. Sight, ladies and gentlemen, what a sight. The copter seems to be circling the parking area now. I guess it's looking for a place to land. No, something just came out of the back of the helicopter. It's a dark object. Perhaps a skydiver plummeting to the earth from only 2,000 feet into the air. Second to the third. No parachutes yet. Those can't be skydivers. I can't tell just yet what they are, but... Oh, my God, they're